Okay,
Great.
recording.
Welcome, everybody, to another book reading of Lord Meher online. It's another Thursday night in Bombay and wherever you're on the world. I'm so happy that you could join us on Zoom. We have Meher, Kiran, Marvin, and Rosalie with us today. And whoever else joins us for the replay, we welcome you too. So we had stopped here last. We had the reading. We will start again from this letter dated April 20, 1942. 4 Chandra Road, Dehradun. Dear brother Pendu, as instructed by Baba, I write to tell you that the whirlwinds have been a constant feature in Mehrabad for years together, and they will continue to remain so because Mehrabad is Karbala. And footnote, Karbala was the famous bitter ground in Iraq 681 AD, where Prophet Muhammad's grandson Hussein, Ali's son, and Muhammad's great grandsons Ali Akbar and Asghar, Hussein's sons, and other Shias were killed, and where Hussein is buried. Even if the whole Mandali are crushed and perish under the lying tin sheets, they will realize God. Then Baba too will be free from the bother of looking after all, and you all will be free from your bindings. But Baba adds, this is not in his luck. In Mehrabad, you all should live like pall-bearers and undertakers. If anyone from the Mandli in Dehradun passes away at any time, his body will be sent to Mehrabad, which you should bury after the proper ceremony. The women Mandli and dogs should be buried on the hill, and the men in Lower Mehrabad. It will be your job to build the tombs. Thus, you all should be like the Parsi carriers of corpses to the Tower of Silence in Bombay, who thou they dispose of so many bodies themselves can carry on merrily. Wartime travel from us. Another thing, if Adi Sir wants Frenny and
Adi
Dolly
Senior.
Adi Senior wants Frenny and Dolly should be kept in the hospital building on the hill. Do not allow them to occupy Baba's cage room. A telegram has been sent to you to this effect today. If Shireen Mai and Perrin come to Mehrabad, arrange for their stay on the hill in the women's quarters as telegraphed, but don't let them stay in Mera's room. Adi has missed some things by staying on in Bangalore. And now that he has realized it, he will come back to Ahmednagar. The piece of roof after that broke and fell down in symbolic of Adi's leaving Bangalore and his coming and residing in Ahmednagar now. Footnote. In midday 1942, Adi Sr. and Ghani left Bangalore for good and returned to Ahmednagar. Frenny and Dolly accompanied them. Adi Sr. began staying at Kushru quarters with his parents, and as did Dolly and Frenny. Baba is very pleased with you and tells you not to worry about anything, and remember, Muhammad's greatness is in Karbala, not in Kaaba. Greetings to all there. Baba would also sometimes compose poetry and send it to Padri, demanding something better in reply. In case of the slightest delay in hearing from him, Baba would send a telegram about it. Thus, Baba would keep in constant touch with the Mehrabad Mandali who were at a distance from him to keep them close to him. At this time, Padri wrote to Baba about some problem he was facing. On 18th April 1942, Baba dictated this telegram to him. Read your letter to Vishnu. Always trusted my pillars, Padri, Vishnu, Bendu, Adi Senior. Implicity, and am not now going to lose my faith in your penance. Don't worry. Erich was sent to Banaras on the 22nd to assist Jal Kerawala in arranging a bungalow for Baba in Rishikesh, and they returned 2 days later. Presumably, the owner of Rishikesh bungalow lived in Banaras. Kaka arrived on 25th morning with the Kotwal children, and Jal Kerawala left that evening for Nagpur and Rajpur. Chanji made some inadvertent mistake and was blasted by Baba on the 24th. When Chanji said that his actions were unintentional, Baba said, if you punch someone in the stomach as a joke and he dies as a result, although unintentional, it is still caused serious injury. Later that evening, Baba was in much better mood as he sat with the women outside the Chander Road house. He called a despondent Chanji on the road in front of the compound and pacified him. I do my work in my own way. Why do you worry for things if you don't if you haven't done anything wrong? I may create a scene or a storm, anything for my work, and involve anyone I choose, even if not at fault. Why should that person feel sad and worry? Baba left on a must trip on Saturday, 25th April 1942, traveling to Rawalpindi, Sialkot, Lahore, Haridwar, and Rishikesh. Baba chose a spot near Lakshman Jhula Bridge where he retired in seclusion alone, including that this was the second of the seven spots he returned to Dehradun on the evening of 6 May. Marvin, can you take it up from here? Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
From Dehradun, Kaka returned to Bombay on 7 May, and Erich was sent back to Benares on the 9th to make final arrangements in Rishikesh for Baba and the group's trip there. One day in Dehradun, a singer from Terry Garwal came and sang before Baba and the women. Mehera did not appear. The singer had no teeth, but boasted that the Maharaj of Terry Garwal had compared him to Tansen, the celebrated singer in King Akbar's court. He sang a song with this line, set aside your veil and you will see God. The man's blandishments while singing were so strange that Baba was quite amused. After he left, Baba directed each of the women to sing and mimic him and their airs and performances. Being still stranger further amused Baba. Only Mani was able to successfully imitate the singer, but Katie's mispronounced Hindi sent Baba into fits of laughter. Next door to their bungalow in Dehradun, an extremely poor toilet sweeper lived with his wife. The wife was pregnant, and each morning the man would sing Kabir's couplets to her. Unbeknownst to him, as he was singing in their hut, the God man would be beating time to his songs on a drum in his room. Baba remarked to the women, that man will have a fine son. I am not playing just to amuse myself. He is receiving a boon from me. Scroll. Baba, with Gustaji, Erich, and Baidul, left Dehradun for must work near Nepal and Bhutan borders on Saturday, 16 May 1942. Whenever Baba went on musk trips at this time, after contacting the musks, he would visit chosen spots and sit for some time in seclusion. Eventually, he carried out his work at 7 selected spots in the Himalayas. While on their way to contact a musk, Baba and the Mandali came across an open-air theater. Next page. Baba said, After we come from the mosque, go talk with the person concerned and ask whether he will arrange an exclusive show for us. The man agreed, and for a nominal charge, Baba and all sat through the entire show. This particular mosque tour in May, at the height of summer, was grueling in the extreme heat. They traveled in jam packed, overcrowded, third class train compartments. Baba had to half stand, half sit on the edge of his seat for hours. People were sitting on the floor, blocking the exits and toilets. Others were hanging onto the boards, footboards. They had very little to eat, and to contact the mosque, they had to journey over terrible roads. By the time Baba and the Mandali returned to Dehradun after 5 days, on the 21st, all were exhausted. Minu Karas arrived for a private meeting with Baba on May 23rd. He was instructed to meditate for 5 minutes a day between 2 and 5 a.m. and to feed, bathe, and clothe the poor of Karachi. He left the same day. Rustam and Frani's daughters, Meru and Nagu, had arrived from Nasik on 13 May and stayed with the women for a few weeks. Meru's mother, Daulat Mai, had accompanied her granddaughters but left for Nasik the same evening after receiving instructions from Baba. Scroll. Gai Mai had begun doing the cooking for Baba and the women, along with her daughters Meru and Manu. She had the habit of adding sugar to add flavor to the food, and she added some to Baba's food. One day someone complained, and Baba sent for her and for Erich. He asked Gai Mai, "Tell me the truth. Do you put sugar in my food?" "Yes, Baba," she replied. Turning to Erich, he asked, "What sort of mother has God given you? Who in their right mind puts sugar in rice and dal?" Erich asked her, "Mother, why do you add sugar to Baba's food? It will affect his health." Gaimai apologized and said, "I will never put it in again." "Swear to me," Baba gestured. So Gaimai swore, and Baba made her repeat the oath again and again until finally she broke down in tears. He then said, "Now listen carefully to me. Go on cooking as you are doing and adding the same amount of sugar." Scroll, please. "Don't listen to anyone. I like the food you prepare very much." And Baba embraced her heartily. Gaimai stared at Baba, incredulous. Baba had been seriously scolding her for half an hour, and now he says this? There was hushed silence as the other women took in the scene. He instructed her, "Why think about your promise now? Your oath consists in doing as I tell you. The first oath was for not putting in sugar, and the second is for putting it in." Okay, we're up to the next page. On another occasion, Baba noticed a magician strolling by their house, and just for fun called him inside to demonstrate his magic. The magician said he want he wanted a boy, and Marwan stepped forward. The magician very softly whispered in his ears, "Now when I clap, stop speaking, and when I clap again, talk." He then announced to all, "I will now use my magic on this child, whereby his tongue will be rendered useless." Mumbling some incantation, the magician waved his wand over Meherwan, clapped, and said to the audience, "Now, if you wish to ask him anything, ask, but he won't be able to answer." Everyone questioned Meherwan, but he kept quiet. Baba too asked him something. Still, he did not reply. The magician clapped, and Meherwan began speaking. When the show was over and the man had left, Baba asked Meherwan, "Why couldn't you speak?" Meherwan said, "The magician told me not to speak." All had a good laugh at his disclosure, but Baba insisted, "No, no, he hypnotized you and prevented you from talking." Scroll. Meherwan persisted, "No, Baba, really, he told me not to speak." At 5 a.m. on Tuesday, May 26, 1942, Baba and the women departed in hired buses for Rishikesh, where they remained for a month. The men Mandali also accompanied him, except for Vishnu and Gustaji, who stayed in Dehradun. In Dehradun, there was a sweeper's daughter named Mani, who was very, very poor. The women Mandali wanted to give her some of their old clothes, but Baba forbade it, remarking, "I will dress her in the finest clothes." At the time, none could grasp the significance of Baba's words, but when he was about to leave for Rishikesh, he expressed his wish to take Muni with him. Her mother, however, did not consent, despite much persuasion. So Baba left, and soon after, Muni suddenly fell ill. When Baba found out, he wrote to Vishnu to see that proper medical treatment was given to the girl. Vishnu admitted her to a hospital where she was well looked after. But within a few days, Muni passed away. Only then did her mother repent for not sending her with Baba to Rishikesh. Scroll. Yet, as age noted, it was destined to happen. Baba had wished it so. He said he would dress her himself in the finest clothes, and he did, along with contrition in the mother's heart. Remembrance of Meher Baba's love also surged. The daily repetition of the 7 names of God had stopped on the 15th of February, but in Rishikesh, Baba again directed the women to chant them each day. On Sunday, May 31st, Baba went into an underground cave at Ganja Bhuwan in Rishikesh and sat there alone from 7:30 to 10 a.m. He went back the next day to retire again in seclusion for his work. Baba's seclusion, as before, seemed to be connected with the war in Europe. The beginning of the heavy air attack on Germany began on 30 May with a 1,000 bomber strong raid on the industrial city of Cologne. In the Pacific, the decisive Battle of Midway Island took place in the first week of June 1942. It was the first major naval defeat for Japan and proved to be the turning point on the Pacific front. On the 31st, while speaking about the various forms of worship adopted by different sects and creeds, Baba stated, "Inaction is preferable to action, inasmuch as it does not create binding and complications. Every action, however, good or righteous, is binding and creates sanskaras, which means one more addition to the complication already created by past binding actions. Life is nothing but an effort to counteract these complications and release the mind from the bindings of past karmas." While explaining about good and evil, Baba stated, "There is nothing such as good or evil. From a moral standpoint, this exists so that the affairs of the world may be conducted according to limitations imposed by society. But from the spiritual standpoint, both are bindings. Standards of good and bad are established according to contemporary standards that may vary with time and circumstance. Also, in spirituality, very often what is understood to be good by the masses is, from the spiritual point of view, bad. And what is understood as bad by the masses is often good from the spiritual point of view. For example, scroll, robbery is bad by general standards. I'm sorry, here we go. Standards of good and bad established according to contemporary. For example, robbery is bad by general standards, but suppose there is an extremely destitute, pregnant woman. She has nothing to eat, and because of her condition, death is certain. A man sees her, has pity on her, but he himself has no money and is unable to help. So he steals money and uses it to feed the woman. Now, it is good that the man helped the woman, but it is bad that he stole for the purpose. Yet, because of the bad act, he could perform the good one. Also, by general standards, beating others is bad. But if you beat someone with the motive of correcting his life, and do so without malice and without anger, this beating is a blessing to him. Three things are bad: lust, anger, and greed. And among these, anger is the worst. There was no indoor plumbing in Rishikesh, so the many sadhus who lived there would repair to the jungle to answer nature's calls. But the women Mandali who were living in strict seclusion could not go off to such isolated places for this purpose. The problem was solved by Baba, who instructed Krishna to have a pit dug in back of their compound. Rano, Margaret, Irene, and Kitty would collect their own daily eliminations in a tin pan, which Krishna would empty in the pit and then cover with earth. That of the Eastern women, Mansari would gather and keep outside for Krishna to collect and empty. Finding out about this, some of the local sadhus were disturbed and complained. This holy place is being made vile. Scroll. So, Baba sent them this message with Krishna. By eliminating in the open, flies gather, and there is a possibility of some sort of disease breaking out. By throwing the elimination in the pit and covering it with earth, no flies are attracted. This is a sign of purity, not impurity. Many of the local sadhus would come and request Baba's darshan, but since he was in seclusion, he was not meeting any outsiders. The women would wash their clothes in the Ganges and lay them out on the sands to dry. Baba would sit and converse with them until the clothes dried. Once, when Baba was sitting on the banks, two sadhus approached and inquired, "Excuse us, can you tell us where Meher Baba is residing?" Baba pointed to the bungalow, and Mani informed them, "In that bungalow." They left, and Meher chided, "You should have met them, Baba." Baba said, "All right, to make you happy, I will meet them." When the sadhus were walking back after some time, they were introduced to Baba, and he allowed them to bow down to him. Okay, I think it's time we have another reader.
Rosalie, are you there? Would you like to read?
Um,
Thank
relaxing with the women. Baba mentioned the sadhus in Rishikesh immersed in their various sorts of spiritual practices, commenting, "Look at them. Some meditate and repeat God's name day and night without sleeping. They perform all kinds of rigorous penances, and still I don't see them. And here I am sitting with you all, talking with you and looking after you. How lucky you are." One day in Rishikesh, Baba was giving Chanji instructions at the Mandali's quarters when a sannyasi came to the gate desiring darshan. Chanji went to him and told him that Meher Baba, being in seclusion, was not seeing anyone until his tours in the Himalayas were finished. The sannyasi exploded with anger. "Why does he refuse to give darshan? Am I not worthy? Do you know that I have visited hundreds of the holiest places of pilgrimage in India? Why should I care if I don't get darshan here?" Chanji tried to explain the situation and pacify him, but the sannyasi became even more argumentative. He began quoting passages from the Shastras as if to demonstrate his devotion. Eventually, he stormed off, quoting this couplet: where doest thou seek me, O dear devotee? I am always near and with thee." Repeating these lines louder and louder, he raised his arms dramatically and walked off, looking toward the heavens as if pleading with God to grant a little sense to poor Chanji. to be able to recognize someone as sincere as himself. But the ironic part of the whole affair was that had the man not been so absorbed in his own performance, looking toward the sky, he would have seen Baba, who was off to one side watching all the time. I need more words. Scroll, please. Twice he passed Baba without recognizing him. After the man had left, Baba explained to Chanji, his time has not yet come. People like him wander from place to place haphazardly in search of God, muttering verses and chapters from the Shastras and chanting couplets from all the poets, but all superficially with the tongue and not from the heart. They gain very little, practically nothing spiritually. And then this is in quotes, Baba must have said this. It is not merely the desire, but a keen inner longing that, in time, brings one in contact with the true saint or master. In June, Chanji was sent to Madras, Bangalore, Hyderabad, and other places to deliver Baba's messages to different prominent individuals. When he returned to Dehradun, he was sent to Delhi for a week on 3 July to contact Gandhi and other political leaders. We need a new page. Their school holidays being over, Nehru and Nagu, along with Hilla and Naju Kotwal, left Rishikesh on 9 June. Baba was in Hardwar at the time, and consequently, the girls did not have the opportunity to bid him goodbye. Feeling sad about this, they were happy at least to see that Baidul was waiting for them at the Hardwar station, where their train stopped for an hour. Baidul conveyed their love to Baba, who was nearby, and Baba called the girls to him for a quick embrace before their train left. On Tuesday, 23rd June, 1942, Baba went back to Hardwar, this time taking the women and a few of the men to witness a large festival going on there at the time. Thousands of pilgrims and sadhus from all parts of the country had gathered. The Ganges was flooded, and Baba and the women had to walk across the Laxman Jula Bridge to get to Hardwar. Special arrangements had been made for the women to watch the festival from the balcony of a bungalow on the banks of the Ganges. They returned to Rishikesh late that night. On the 24th, Baba went to Panipat for 3 days to contact Must. Of the several whom Baba contacted, all were naked. 2 Must were noteworthy. Aladia, who was blind and very thin, was a very high Must, who sat near the entrance to the shrine of Qutub Wali Shah Kalander. Another Must was a wild-looking boy of about 9 years of age only, whom Baba contacted and confirmed was a God-intoxicated soul. The boy roamed about Panipat, always naked, covered with mud, and would eat anything given, even mud. Once, when Baba was returning to Rishikesh from a must trip, Erich went to meet him. On the way, Erich passed through a forested area known as the abode of sages, where yogis and rishis live in tiny white huts and meditate on God. In one dilapidated hut, Erich saw a handsome teenage boy lying down. Remembering Baba's constant desire to find an ideal boy, he described the youth to Baba and requested that he at least go to the hut and have a look at this unusual boy. Baba agreed and went to the boy's hut after crossing the Laxman Jula Bridge on the way back to their bungalow. He gestured to Erich. First, go ask him what he is doing here. Erich talked with the boy alone, who told him, my parents are in Ambala. I am only 14, but I have always had a great longing for God's darshan. So I left everything and started for the Himalayas in search of him. I have come here to meditate and see what can be learned. Oh, we need another page. Do you have a guru? Erich asked. No, I don't. They talk too much. I want a guru who doesn't talk. Erich said, I know of a guru who has not spoken for the last 17 years. His name is Meher Baba. The boy at once replied, I have heard of Sri Meher Baba. He is staying somewhere nearby, isn't he? But pausing for a few moments, but Meher Baba is too great to accept me as his disciple. Touched by his words, Erich then took the lad to Baba. Upon seeing Baba, the boy was overcome with happiness. Baba told him, quotes, I will be your guru. This is the first and last time that we will meet. You will never see me again physically. However, if you want me to accept you as my disciple, you must carry out 4 orders. If you agree to obey, then one day you will find me in your heart. Baba gave him these 4 orders. Number 1, you should be free from lust, and until your dying day, you should never touch a woman. 2, instead, you should only think continuously of realizing the divine beloved. 3, you must never touch money, and you must beg for your food. 4, as a mantra from me, you must keep repeating night and day God's name, whichever name you wish. Without the least hesitation, the boy accepted the 4 orders and thus obtained the guru of his heart's desire. Baba left, and the next day sent Erich back to the boy with a locket of his image, a book on Baba's life, a mat to sit on, and some flour to make into chapatis and eat as prasad. The boy was extremely thankful for Baba's gifts. Without evincing the least fear, he continued to live in the woods of Rishikesh, which are famous for their deadly black scorpions, numerous snakes, and occasional tigers. Now that he had found his true master, There was nothing to fear. Wow, Jai Baba. I'm out of words.
Kiran, would you like to read next? Thank you. Thank you, Rosalie. I'll come back to you.
Yeah. Baba and the group left Rishikesh on Tuesday, 30th June 1942. For the previous 2 to 3 days, it had been raining heavily in Rishikesh and the Ganges was flooded. It was pouring rain the day they left, and some sadhus remarked, "Let us see how Meher Baba lives now." But after some time, the sun began shining, and Baba and the woman walked across the Lakshman Jula bridge to return to Dehradun. They were also helped by a boatman who knew and respected Baba. Despite the urging of the sadhus that he not cross the river to help Baba, the boatman was ready to assist the group. These sadhus had been misguided and instigating the local populace against Meher Baba for the simple reason that he was a stranger in the sacred Hindu. As age noted ironically, the hypocritical sadhus never dreamed that Baba was the same one whom they were worshipping and longing to see, and who was now in their midst. How could those who are blindfolded be expected to see and recognize who he was? Although they were naked, they were not free of desire. Although they were covered with ash, they were not burned to ash. Often they lived in external poverty and dirt, but they were not as the dust at the master's feet. Reaching Dehradun by train and bus the same day, Baba and the woman took up residence in the same Chandar Road bungalow in which they had stayed previously. The monthly travel from Rishikesh to Dehradun by hired bus with the luggage. Although the distance was only 28 miles, it took them nearly 12 hours to arrive. Due to the heavy flooding and the poor condition, you need to scroll down a bit. And the poor condition of the bus. Baba had instructed Vishnu to store rice and grain for a year, as there was a possibility of it becoming scarce during wartime. Vishnu had stockpiled a sufficient amount in a room adjoining Baba's. Some days later, Baba complained to Vishnu, "Because of your sacks of grain in the next room, hundreds of rats come and disturb me in my work. You should sell it all." Vishnu said, "If you are disturbed, the wheat and jowar can be stored on the monthly side because you wished it. It was stored in this room. Though I pointed out the room is not suitable for it." "What do you mean?" Baba asked. "It was all right to store it here then. Now I want to sell it." Baba, for his own reasons, was anxious about disposing of the grain. It had cost quite a lot of money, but it was sold at a lower price. Next page. It also caused the labor of dispatching it to the buyers and hiring a bullock cart to deliver it. Vishnu, who was in charge of accounts, was naturally feeling perturbed by this and stated, "Baba, we have suffered a big loss in selling the grain." But Baba replied, What do you know of the grain this loss has given us? Oh, sorry. But Baba replied, what do you know of the gain this loss has given us? Your job is to continue doing as I tell you. Baba sent Kaka and Baidul from Dehradun to find a suitable living accommodation near the Himalayas. They found a house in Katgodam and rented it. When Baba received word of it, he left Dehradun on Friday, 10th July 1942, the 17th anniversary of his silence. Accompanying Baba were Eruch and Gustaji, Adi Senior, who had been called from Ahmednagar, joined them at Bareilly. Baba sent Eruch back to Dehradun, and then Baba with Gustaji and Adi Senior traveled to Katgodam, arriving at noon on the 11th. Baba liked the small cottage Kaka and Baidul had chosen as it was ideally situated between two high ranges of hills, making it secluded and isolated from any intrusion. Baba then assigned individual duties to all. He pointed Adi to look after his personal work, laundry, cleaning his dishes, helping with his bath and correspondence, as well as the sweeping and general cleaning of his room. Baidul was to do the marketing, Kaka to cook, and Gustaji offer a helping hand to all. In addition, all four were required to keep watch for 2 hours at night by Baba's side. Whenever Baba was on a tour, Vishnu was instructed to send him a telegram and letter every day detailing the men and women Mandali's health. During travels, telegrams were sent in care of the railway station master. Baba was very, very particular about this practice. Thus, one of the Mandali with Baba would go to the station each day to collect any telegrams and letters. If none was received, Baba would be annoyed at Vishnu and sent a cable to him asking why there was no news from him. On Sunday, 12 July 1942, a high mast named Udarman Masthan was brought to Baba's cottage. An elderly man, Udarman, was a Jamali mast, very amiable and quite suitable for Baba's inner work, according to Baba. From that day onward, Baba sat with him nearly every day in seclusion in the cottage at Katkulam. Footnote, please. Mona, can you read the footnote? Or you're
Yes, I
mute.
will.
Sorry. On the 14th, Baba left Katgodam by bus for Bhowali, 22 miles away from where he proceeded to Mahargaon and the Hosali mountains on foot. After searching for Mas, he returned to Mahargaon, where, where he contracted a young, subtle, conscious boy named Naini Baba. There, he also found a man who had a tendency towards spirituality, whom he blessed. Baba then descended Nal Damayanti Valley, where he contacted a yogi called Mauni Baba, who had been silent for many years and had a small ashram with a few disciples there. Baba
Okay,
and the
then there's some Meher Kiran, there's some kind of disturbance coming from your side, so, like when I'm here listening. So thank you so much for reading today, and I'll read from here. Yeah,
yeah, and we
thank you,
missed the
Meher Kiran.
last page. If you could read that also, when it was Khat Godam.
From
There,
You want me to read from the previous page?
yeah, there's a footnote. Did you read that? Like, we wanted to
Yeah, I
hear.
read. Did you hear the footnote? I read it. You want
Yeah,
me to
but
read again? I can.
yeah, please read it again.
Okay. All right. Footnote. Lord Meher, page 2289. For his own reasons, Baba gave Adi Senior chicken to eat on July and liver on 12th and 13th, while everyone else had the usual vegetarian fare. Yeah? You want me to read again from the next page from the beginning or from where you left?
From where I left, we should be fine. Thank you.
Can you tell me where?
Bowali. So the Baba and the Mandali then started for Bowali.
Okay, trying to locate that.
The third,
Your voice is cracking. Okay, yeah. Baba and the Mandali then started for Bowali. The hilly tracks they were climbing were narrow and rugged. It was very warm, and Baba would often stop and touch the ground with his finger. Drops of sweat trickled off his forehead while he was wandering over these Himalayan hills. The Mandali described Baba as looking spiritually burdened after finishing some arduous task. Although he was sweating profusely, Baba seemed to be in an exceptional mood and would not rest for a moment. He had only drunk a cup of tea in the morning before starting and nothing else during the day. Yet he was walking very swiftly over the perceptuous trails. At times, the going was
Precip-
so rough.
Precipitous.
Thank you. Trails at times the going was so rough and steep they had to get down on their hands and knees. Every part of their bodies ached at one point. Baba remarked, when the universal body aches, I feel thousands of body pains. Oh my god. I totally relate to that. Which silenced their grumbling minds. Everyone felt thirsty, including Baba, but he forbade any drinking of water. By 2 in the afternoon, they still had 4 miles of open plain ahead and a final hill to climb. Adi was exhausted and felt he could not walk further. Kaka, Baidul, and Gustaji were in the same condition, but somehow they trudged on and reached Wali. Having trekked more than 7 miles by evening, Baba, Kaka, and Adi returned on a bus to Katagaon. Godam, where Baba allowed them to quench their thirst. Kaka cooked dinner for Baba, Adi, and himself. Baba, looking very tired, complained that his head was reeling and that he had a pain in his heart. Gustaji and Baidul returned to the Kat Godam the next day. For days now, Baba had been seriously hinting that he would break his silence there in the Himalayas. On 16th July, he rose at 3 a.m. and, accompanied by all 4 men, went out at 5 a.m. to find a suitable spot where he could sit for an hour in seclusion, crossing an aqueduct. They began climbing through a thicket and overgrown shrubs for 2 hours. Once again, trekking on their hands and knees, no one was visible in this jungle terrain as they climbed one hill after another. Baba walked so quickly it was difficult for the men to keep pace. Adi nearly sprained his ankle twice, slipping on some slick boulders in the path. They had not been able to find a suitable place when suddenly Baba pointed to a deep valley up ahead and motioned, "The valley is filled with spirits who are welcoming me." He started running, and the mandali followed. For an hour, Baba led them on a breathless march around the valley and to the top of a third hill. Rosalie, would you like to read from here?
Yeah. He remarked, although my seclusion is more important, I must heed the call of these disembodied souls. The purpose was served by Baba's presence there, and he then returned to the second hill where he selected a spot to sit in seclusion. At one point, Baba explained, the purpose of my seclusion is to gather the forces of good to swing the balance of humanity's fate and sow the seed for a certain direction the war must take. Baba also, once again, strongly hinted that he was about to break his silence. He sat down in a corner, leaning against a rock, his face glowing resplendently. He instructed Baidul, Kaka, Gustaji, and Adi Sr. Sit at a distance of 50 yards away from me, each at one corner, and don't look at me until I clap. Baba's seclusion began at 9:50 a.m. The Mandali were exhilarated as they thought to themselves, how fortunate we are that Baba is about to break his silence. Out of all the Mandali, only we four were selected to hear him. After 55 minutes at 10:45 a.m., Baba clapped and the Mandali approached him. After all these years, they thought, what will Baba's first words be? But Baba did not utter a sound and motioned it was time to go. Baidu collected some of the soil on which Baba had sat in seclusion and preserved it in a box. Baba had now sat in seclusion near the Himalayas in 7 such spots. The next day, Baba began fasting in Kat Godam on milkless tea taken 3 times a day. He continued to sit alone in his room, working for at least an hour each day with Uderman Mastan. A new page. He also looked over and signed an itinerary drawn up by Adi for an upcoming must trip to Ajmer. They were to have traveled to Peshawar and Lahore also, but Baba crossed them off the schedule. It was pouring down rain on the 18th. During this seclusion, Baba expressed a wish to hear Qawwali singing, and on 18th July, Baidu brought a local Qawwal with a group of musicians. The singing began. But within 2 minutes, Baba left the room and beckoned Adi to follow him. With the door shut to his room, he revealed to Adi, quote, to lessen the great universal burden, I wanted to take it easy and relax by hearing a kawal. From where on earth did Baidu bring this man? Is he singing or what? Baba sent for Baidu and asked him sharply, who have you brought here? That man can't sing. But Baidu assured him, he is a famous kawal. Just come and listen. Give him a chance. He was only warming up. So Baba went back to listen again. But after 10 minutes, he motioned to Baidu to send the group away after paying them. When the singer and musicians had left, Baba asked Baidu, what did you pay him? And Baidu says, 5 rupees only. He agreed to sing the whole night for that amount. Wait, you lower it a little bit, Mona. Wait a minute. And his Tonga fare, Baba said, and it said, it was included in the 5 rupees. Baba fumed. You brainless Irani idiot. Can any real Kawali ever agree to sing for such a sum? You should have had some thought about me. That rogue knew he couldn't sing, so he accepted 5 rupees. You are stupid enough to be happy thinking you had struck such a good bargain. Has your father ever heard Kawali music? Baba then shook his head and chuckled over Baidu's miserliness. The Mandali shared night watch duty, and one morning at tea, Gustaji announced that while keeping watch the night before, he had seen a brilliant light on the mountain opposite their cottage. Adi was skeptical and said it must have been someone carrying a lantern. Baba intervened and told Adi to pay attention to what Gustaji was saying. Adi still did not believe him. But that night, while on watch, Adi too saw it. Baba divulged that there was a very advanced yogi living on the mountain, and therefore the light that was seen came from that yogi. It continued to rain. Baba broke his fast after 3 days at midnight on Sunday, 19th July, with a little rice and butter. He and Gustaji played draughts while Kaka prepared his food. Chanji arrived to see Baba on the 21st and left after discussing certain matters with him for a short while. Baidu was sent to Bareilly that day to make advanced accommodation arrangements. New page. Baba and the 4 men, Adi Sr., Gustaji, Kaka, Baidu, left Kathgodam on 22nd July 1942 and went to Bareilly, where he again contacted the saint Bashir Mian and spent the night at a hotel. They reached Najibabad at 4:15 p.m. the next evening and went from there to the small village of Sahanpur, some distance away in 2 tangas. The Tonga had to wade through a small lake, and their seats and clothes got drenched. Baba changed into some of Adi's clothes until his own dried. All Baba's strenuous efforts were well spent, for in Sahanpur, Baba found a young must of 30 years old called Gani Baba. The must's parents confronted Baba, complaining they believed their son had gone insane and were terribly distraught about his condition. Baba calmed them, explaining to them that their son was, in fact, spiritually advanced and not insane. He blessed the must's parents, in reassuring them that they were fortunate to have such a saintly son. 2 other musts were contacted at Sahanpur. Baba vomited 3 times, once before and then after each contact. Wow. Returning exhausted to Najibabad the same night, they slept on the railway station platform. As usual, the Mandali took turns keeping watch. During the night, at one point, 2 small urchin boys started walking towards them. Just as Adi held up his hand to motion the boys away, Baba woke up and, propped on his elbow, waved to the boys to come forward. He permitted them to lie down beside him on his bedding roll, covered them with his arm, and went back to sleep. The next day, Baba went back to Sahanpur, where he contacted Gani Baba again, and also Kali Kamliwala, before returning to Najibabad. Previously in Najibabad, a fat, naked must known as Zudin was contacted beneath a tree. As Baba was bidding farewell, the must said, "The work is finished." But on this day, when the must saw Baba, he started running away, and Baba followed after him for 3 miles. 2 hours of pursuit, however, did not change the must's reluctance to receive the beloved. Also contacted in Sahanpur was an old must, Tula Shah. Baba had coaxed him into a local shop for contact. This amazed the local villagers because this was the first known occasion during which Tula Shah had ever followed anyone's beckoning. When Tula Shah saw Baba on a later visit, he evaded Baba. Similarly to Riazuddin, by scurrying off into the wilderness outside the village, where he could not be found. So, leaving each must to his whim, Baba contacted them in an invisible manner. Wow.